Haven't Seen It with Tim Sestito and Tommy Tevene. Hello, everybody. Welcome on in. Thank you all so much for listening today. This is a podcast where one of us is watching a movie for the very first time, and today that is Tommy.
Yeah.
Never seen Nashville before. I actually could see a wide margin of our audience has never seen this movie before. It's a 1975 classic from Robert Altman. It was nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards at the time, definitely highly praised, but kind of didn't get the cultural legacy to live on. Like, I live in Nashville, and I've asked almost every person that I've met down here, "Hey, have you ever heard of the movie Nashville?" And everybody's like, "Yeah, I've heard of that TV show." And I'm like, "No, no, no, the movie from like
I'm talking about
1975."
the movie, excuse me.
I'm not
Have you
talking
heard
about
of the
some.
movie?
I'm not talking about some TV show. I do a movie podcast.
Yeah, I'm trying. Do you show people the yeah? Well, Timmy, this is one of your favorite movies, if I'm not incorrect. And you have a framed poster of Nashville, like right next to where you're recording.
Yeah, I
And
do have a frame poster right next to where I'm recording of the poster. I mean,
yeah,
I really like this movie. I think part of it is like the themes of fame. It's a very American movie.
oh yeah, 100%. And it's a great ensemble movie in the line of like Boogie Nights and like He's Confused. We definitely wouldn't have had those types of movies if
Yeah,
it
but
wasn't for
this
this.
one is in more interesting in the regard of like there's no like lead protagonist in this one.
Yeah, that's
Like
what was interesting.
Boogie Nights and Dazed and Confused. Yeah, they're ensemble casts, but they follow a character. This one like kind of has one, and like Harvin Hamilton, I guess, as like he's like the country singer who's also the mayor of Nashville, in quotations.
Yeah,
More of a political figure, and we'll kind of like in terms of like how he views Nashville and how he wants the rest of the world to see it. But we'll get all into that there. But yeah, this is a denser movie. I feel like the past couple weeks we've done movies with lack of meat on the bones, if you will. Like Twister,
yeah,
fun movie, but how many times can you be like
yeah.
that Twister was awesome, dude?
That
Uh,
sound design, yeah.
and yeah, Tommy, I think speaking of Twisters roared into movie theaters, exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
80 million its opening weekend, which it was like 30 or 40 million over what they expected to make in their opening weekend.
Mhm.
I saw it. I went to a Wednesday early screening of Twisters, and it was pretty much a full house, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, when I saw it was packed on a Sunday, like afternoon. Nature is healing away from the superhero movies. I mean, as Deadpool Wolverine comes
Well,
out,
until
and
this
it's
until
probably gonna
this
make
until this
yeah,
weekend. Until this
yeah.
weekend.
But basically, Marvel and DC pretty much took the majority of the year off, and we're seeing like a lot of original hits come out, like Twisters and like even like Long Legs, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But we're getting more original movies out here. I mean, Twisters granted is a sequel, but it's a sequel to a movie from
Tw
25 years ago.
Twisters is the kind of sequel, like slash reboot of a franchise that was like, okay, it was popular, not a great
Yeah.
movie, but a fun movie. Like,
Mhm.
let's do it again. Like, we can give it the visual effects it deserves. Like, it's kind of, in my opinion, the kind of reboots that Hollywood should be going more for instead of like when they were doing like we got to reboot RoboCop, and it's like that movie's perfect.
Yeah.
Let's leave it alone. Can we
And
leave
this
it
this is a
alone?
fun sequel. I mean, you can barely even call it a sequel because the only connective tissue between this and the first one was Dorothy, the sensor system, and none of the characters come back from original Twister.
Yeah,
Um,
it basically
and
mentioned Dorothy, and that was it for
I
references.
was
And
so expecting a scene of like when you find out who Daisy Edgar Jones' character's mom is. It was going to be
yeah,
Helen Hunt or something like that. And I was so shocked. It was just like
random
Laura
lady.
Teamy. Yeah, random
Yeah.
lady. Is it?
No,
But
that was nice that it didn't shove cameos down your face. It mentioned Dorothy, and then there was another tornado that was going through a movie theater, and those are basically the only two references that I caught
yeah.
to Twister and in Twisters. Um, One, I liked that it kind of raised the stakes immediately, with
Oh
the
yeah.
Daisy Edgar Jones's character, where she's out in the field and she loses three of her best friends, including her boyfriend. Then she's out in New York working safely, just having lost the edge for tornado hunting, and her friend Javi, who is also there, who kind of had the hots for her. They go, he has this company now, and like it was kind of an interesting flip on its head because instead of being with like the renegade, ragtag team, this is now the more professional team, like in the first movie that they were going against. And then we introduced Glenn Powell's character, who's a YouTuber, has a lot more charisma than any other YouTuber I've ever seen. But turns out he has a heart of gold, and they basically have a plan to dry up the hydration of these tornadoes to stop them in their path. And that's kind of the experiment they go out and chase. I thought
Yeah,
it was
it
thought
was
it was
fun.
a yeah, it was a fun movie. I thought it was a solid movie. Good action movie. Kind of just again, it's similar to Twister. Like what more different can you do from the original versus this one? Like I guess give the characters a little more characterization.
I
I
think in general, I don't know how you feel about this, but I thought this was a way better movie than Twister. My only real complaint with the movie was I didn't really like the soundtrack, but that's just my personal feelings on the country music they played in that movie.
but I thought it fit.
It did. That was the thing. It did
I
fit,
thought it
but I was
worked.
also
Like it was a
it
movie
fit, but at
set
the
in
same time, I was like,
brother, it's a movie set in Oklahoma. They're not going to be
yeah,
playing. They're not going to be playing the
that's
stroke.
fair.
They're not playing the Strokes for you, dude, just to give you the
Exactly.
soundtrack you want. Okay.
That's fair. That's fair. But I think that this movie had immediate stakes that the first Twister didn't. I felt the first Twister, the characters felt too safe. There wasn't real danger to the Twister. I mean, only two characters died really, from what I remember. And when
It
we
was
watched
only
that last
one, I
week,
thought. Well, I thought it was only one.
well, it was the rival and his like driver.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
essentially one. But yeah, this movie immediately, like you said, like stops out with three characters dying off the bat. The Twisters immediately feel like it's extremely dangerous. There's a bunch of red shirts throughout this movie that just get like murked and fucked up by tornadoes in a way that's really cool and a fun disaster movie, which made this movie feel much more dangerous. And Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones had great charisma. I thought there was a little more meat on the bones in terms of the characters here than the first Twister, and I thought
Yeah.
the supporting cast was fun too. I mean, we had David Cornsett, the guy's playing Superman next year in this, and a bunch of other great people.
No,
Anthony Romas, yeah,
it was fun. I thought that Glenn Powell just outshone Daisy Edgar Jones in the thing, like his charisma, like
oh yeah, he's definitely the better actor of the two.
he's the better actor of the two. He's kind of the up and coming one. I liked how they kind of when you're introduced to him, it's like he's this arrogant guy, and this company are, kind of it's positioned that they're the good guys, but then you get the twist. I guess not really a twist because it was really predictable, but like, oh, they're actually tracking these storms to find damaged property to sell them off to this real estate mogul in Oklahoma. And basically try to buy the land up cheapest off by the dollar. And then we kind of learn like, oh, like the Casey, Glenn Powell's character, like he goes to these towns afterwards, they're hit, gives out free food and stuff like that, gives out free shirts and things like that. And you're like, oh, maybe he's not as arrogant as you thought he was. And then Daisy and Glenn Powell have a moment at a bull riding thing where they kind of talk about each other a little bit. And then Daisy Edgar Jones runs away, and Glenn Powell comes to the house.
Yeah,
And then they chase the storm, and then they have a kiss that Steven Spielberg basically cut out of the movie. He's like, it's a little
that
cliche.
was the weirdest part. It was just like they're
They're like, it's a
definitely
little.
built up the end.
He's like, it's a little cliche. I'm like, bro, it's a movie called Twisters. Of course, it's cliche. I just
There's the fact that he met her at the airport to tell her like to come back was cliche itself. Just give us the kiss. It felt weird and like a weird sexist moment where it's like clearly there's chemistry. You know that like the second they cut the credits,
how
they're
is
gonna
it
kiss
sexist?
anyways. Not sexist, sexless,
Oh,
sexless.
sexless. Yeah, yeah. They're
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
sex out of movies for Gen Z, and it's annoying.
yeah. Exactly. Just like give us a kiss. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And then I know you saw Long Legs as well.
Yeah, Long Legs. I mean, that movie's making money, and Neon's a biggest hit so far. It seems like it had a $20 million opening, and it was a really fun horror movie. Well, maybe not fun, but just dark and disturbing horror movie, to put it in a better way. For me, maybe that's
Nothing.
fun. Other people, it might not be.
I'm sure it's a very quality horror movie.
Yeah.
From the trailers I saw, fun does not seem to describe this
Yeah,
movie
I
for me.
would not call it fun, but I had a good time with the
Like I would
movies.
call I would call Twisters fun.
Yeah, you are correct. So this movie, I'm a big horror fan, as you know, in the podcast, and this movie made me keep the lights on that night after I saw it. It makes great use of the negative spaces in the dark. There's so many shots in this that Oz Perkins, who was in Legally Blonde, he was the weird goth kid in Legally Blonde, he directed this movie. But
Mm.
they filmed like the shots in ways that like they'll be framed so you can see like a bunch of darkness to the right of the screen, and you're just looking towards that darkness in the right, seeing if there's going to be like a killer monster or whatever out there. And it just freaked me out in a way that's amazing. They use Nicolas Cage in a very bonkers way that fits the movie, and I feel like they utilize him in a very correct way. You know, it could have easily been like a very cringy performance from Nicolas Cage, as he can do sometimes, but in this case I thought it was really well. He was creepy in the perfect way. Definitely recommend it. It's just unnerving as hell.
Yeah, and isn't Oz Perkins is Anthony Perkins' son, right?
Yeah, yeah. Anthony Perkins from Psycho's son. So, little Norman Bates connection. So it's funny that he's now a horror director. But overall, I mean, I'm excited to see like some of his other films that have come out in the past, and this is just a great little kind of riff on Silence of the Lambs, but does something different. Than it's not just like a retread of that kind of movie.
Yes. Yeah. So I would like to check it out eventually. Are you gonna go see Deadpool and Wolverine this weekend, Tommy?
I definitely am. I actually just watched one of the Wolverine movies right before we recorded, so I'm getting. I don't even know if I could say pumped, but I'm just like, oh fuck it, I want it. I want to see it. I want to see Hugh
How
Jackman.
many Disney 20th Century Fox references are going to be in this movie? Because they're going to make a ton of
Oh,
jokes
a
at it.
ton. I couldn't help myself. I looked up the spoilers already for like all the cameos and shit like that. It's gonna be fucking overboard. So I'm all for it.
Is this going to be in like the event movie, kind of like an Endgame or a Spider-Man, whichever the last one was, No Way Home, whatever, right? I think
I
that's
think
what.
it's definitely gonna be like the Spider-Man No Way Home thing, where like you'll see like a random character like, oh shit, so and so's in this movie, and maybe like a nerd will fan out for him a little bit, but then afterwards, like a couple years later, you'll be like, yeah, the movie's kind of forgettable. That's what
Yeah,
I'm thinking it's gonna be like.
I have that smell on that movie too. Um,
Yeah,
it's kind of remarkable that Ryan Reynolds is such a big movie star, and if you look at his filmography, it's just awful.
crash wall to wall.
Wall to wall, like this guy's just made trash for years. Like his best movie is probably like the original Deadpool.
Yeah,
Maybe
and even that.
Maybe Van Wilder is the best movie he's been in. Like it's versus something like Ryan Gosling where you dive through his filmography, you're like, wow, this guy has just been in a lot of great movies, and then you just it's incredible that this guy just is still
What's
such a
funny,
big
like, has
star.
he ever worked with like a great auteur? I mean, like, not that I can think of. I mean, like
No,
Sean Levy's the closest, and he's not really an auteur.
Sean Levy's not the guy who directed the Pink Panther with Steve Martin. No,
And
no.
he's directing Deadpool and Wolverine. So
Oh boy.
Ryan Reynolds likes his guys.
I don't
So
know,
I
just
mean,
it like the trailers, like the cinematography just looks awful
yeah.
for it.
I
But
mean, I'm expecting something in the middle of like the X-Men movies. I mean, they're definitely up and down. I mean, I watched Last Stand earlier this week, the third one, mediocre looking back, and then I watched the Wolverine, the one where he's in Japan. That was fun. I think it's going to land somewhere in the middle there. So
all
whatever.
right. All right, cool. Well, that's our movies we saw and future movie we're probably going to see and talk about.
Yeah.
But now we're going to discuss Nashville.
Now, after years in the making, Robert Altman brings to the big screen along the way to Nashville with 24, count them, 24 of your very favorite stars. David Arkin, Barbara Baxter, Ned Beatty in Nashville, and the fabulous performances of Karen Black, Ronnie Blakely, Timothy Brown in Nashville, along with the spectacular Keith Carradine, Geraldine Captain, Robert Bouquet in Nashville, and the exciting appearances of Shelley Duvall, Alan Garfield, and Henry Gibson in Nashville, and the fantastic Scott Glenn, Jeff Goldblum, Barbara Harris in Nashville, not to mention the terrific David Hayward, Michael Murphy, Alan Nichols in Nashville, and the all-time great Dave Peel, Christina Reyes, Bert Remsen in Nashville, plus Plus the incredible Lily Tomlin, Glenn Wells, and Keenan Wynn in Nashville. Be the first on your block to marvel at the magnificent stars through the magic of stereophonic sound and living color picture right before your very eyes without commercial interruption.
Fellow taxpayers.
So there was no TV spot, so we just kind of played the opening of the movie because I didn't know how else to sequence that. This movie is probably different than any other movie we've covered on this podcast. This movie covers the this is for the all of the all it covers fame in 1975, and it's all connected through Hal Philip Walker, this mysterious political third-party candidate that's running around trying to put this big campaign on and get all these country music stars involved in here. And I think it's a very interesting examination of where America was in 1975, both politically and like socially in that kind of climate. Tommy, for you, what are some of your just first impressions that you had of the film?
So I wasn't really sure what to expect going into this. I kind of went in relatively blind, other than knowing it's a Robert Altman movie. I know that Shelley Duvall's in it. That's the reason why we're covering this, because Shelley Duvall passed away about a week or two ago, and that was the extent of it. And I really like this movie. I mean, the soundtrack alone is incredible. I wasn't expecting all these fun musical performances. This is the kind of country music that I kind of prefer and like. And I was telling Timmy earlier, like, yeah, I added the soundtrack to like my Apple Music library. Just been listening to it like all week ever since I watched this.
Yeah, this soundtrack is not pop country at all. It's not the kind of country music that you would hear on the radio today. It's very classic country. It starts with Harvin Hamilton singing this song about like being around for 200 years, and it sounds almost like a John Philip Sousa march. It's like this very traditional kind of like country
patriotic
song. It's very
bicentennial.
patriotic. Yeah, because this is right around the bicentennial of America, 1976.
And overall, I mean, the ensemble I think was all great. I mean, it's a movie that I feel like I definitely need to rewatch to fully appreciate. But all the different characters and strands were just really fun to see, and just seeing like how they all connected and right there. Like I said earlier, this reminds me of like one of my favorite movies of all time is Days of Confused, and you can just see the influence of Richard Linklater. How Richard Linklater was just so inspired by this movie, and I'm sure other Robert Altman movies. Because the thing with ensemble movies, sometimes it can be boring or a drag if the ensemble's not fun. And in this case, the ensemble is just really fun. The different stories are great. My favorite standout was the ginger girl. I mean, I'm not going to remember any of the characters' names, but the ginger girl who just couldn't sing whatsoever. And, she's deluded into thinking like, oh, I'm a singer. I got this. And then she has to perform in front of Ned Beatty's like campaign trail thing. And everyone just like, she sucks. Like, oh God, get her off the stage. It's like, why don't you do a strip tease and maybe they'll like you a little better. And so heartbreaking.
Maybe we'll get you on for Barbara Jean's performance. You'll go out and sing with Barbara Jean. Yeah,
Tim, I'll just say If I ever had to sing in public, I'd probably have to do a strip tease to appease them. So I felt that in that moment.
Yeah, so you're talking about Sue Ellen Gay, who's she's this beautiful waitress who wants to be a singer, but unfortunately she can't sing a lick. And it's funny, in a movie that features such like amazing singers in it and great singing performances, like musical performances, this is it's so bad that it's like it's so bad that like it doesn't matter how well you're able to detect good from bad. You are able to detect bad on this one because it's like embarrassingly bad.
It's so funny. Just the different character reactions of them like wincing when she's singing and just being like, oh. And I love just like the end of her story was just one guy, her like friend was like, you can't sing, you can't face it. Go to Detroit. And she's like, no, I'm gonna be a star.
and she's in contrast with Winifred or Albuquerque. She's one of the two. She's the small blonde girl with the different haircuts who runs away from her husband to try to become a star. And it's basically just kind of stalking people. Like the one time we get the chance to hear her sing, they're at a racetrack and she's trying to sing, and like it's just completely drowned out by the sounds of cars just racing around. Like we can't hear anything of her. But then she, at the end when Barbara Jean gets shot and Harvin's like, the show must go on. Like his
Yeah.
message was like this is Nashville, this isn't Dallas, which is, they held a whole scene with Harvin's wife telling the BBC reporter about her relationship with the Kennedys and how much she loved the Kennedy boys, and like
Yeah.
how present that still was in everyone's mind there. Who ended up having the best voice out of everybody we hear in the show,
So
but she's drowned out, and it's an interesting contrast between these two characters.
it's a great like end to the movie too, because I think throughout the whole entire movie of the Barbara Harris Winfrey character, she's like always just antsy, just waiting to get up on stage. Even the moment I was talking about when what's her name does the striptease, you can see her just like coming from behind the curtain, thinking like, "Is this my moment to take over and just like sing and like show up this person?" She's like, "No, no, no." And then the end of the movie, she finds her moment in a dark moment where another character is shot and I think killed. Um,
Yeah.
she she
Well,
takes out and she
she kind of represents like the purity, right? Right, like in 1970s movies, it definitely has this this gap, this gap of this gap, like the generational gap, right? Like of
Mhm.
like your old time, and Barbara Jean and Harvin Hamilton are kind of like the two different sides of these coins of like the future and the past, and just in the types of music that they play and everything like that. And we see a lot of relationships in this movie between old young characters, between Mr. Green and L.A. Joan, who's played by Shelley Duvall. Mr.
Mhm.
Green's wife is sick, and he's just trying to get L.A. Joan to come, Martha, to come see his wife, and she's just chasing guy after guy. Anybody with
what
any celebrity
yeah.
inkling to it, that's who she's trying to chase.
What's so funny is about Shelley Duvall. I mean, I'm sure most viewers are probably similar, or listeners are similar to me, where they mostly just know her from The Shining. And this performance, I mean, first of all, I didn't expect Shelley Duvall to be like a smoke show essentially at this movie, for
Yeah,
lack of a better word.
she's
And
she's
just
dressed
like
very provocatively in this
yeah,
film.
yeah, and she's just like such a different character from like her most famous role, The Shining. Of just I think she just brings a great little sense of humor. The one scene where Scott Glenn's character is like talking to his mom on the phone, and she keeps on just walking around the house, just trying to tease him. And he's just like, "Can you just get off the phone?" I thought that she was really funny. Just moment where like she keeps on just walking out, and her uncle's like, "Where is she? Where'd she go?"
Yeah, and with the Shelley Duvall character, she teases Kenny, who ends up being the shooter, which we'll definitely dive more into because it's an interesting turn for his character.
There's a
Uh,
version of the script where apparently like they just didn't reveal who the killer was. I kind of liked it that they revealed it was Scott Glenn. I mean, Scott Glenn from Silence of the Lambs, he was the CIA or FBI director or instructor, or whatever, rather. Just a great little character actor right there. He's been so much good shit, and I love just the scene of like you can see the little clues coming up where like Shelley Duvall in that scene we're just talking about wants to open up his violin case and he gets really pissed off and said, "Don't look at it." And you think like, oh, he's probably just pissed off this girl, just like trying to meddle with shit, and then you realize no, his gun was in that violin case, and she didn't want.
yeah,
He wanted,
yeah, like
yeah.
you see the tints there. I think the one thing for me with his character is it's not really like why is he like we hear that his mom is really worried about him. That's kind of like the only thing we learn about his character. He's staying at Mr. Green's house.
Mhm.
He keeps telling people, yeah, yeah, I'm a musician. And he shows up occasionally at little scenes, like when Barbara Jean performs at the Opry outside, and she's just like continually just rambling, and they're like, oh, she's like not okay.
I think that was a
Uh,
moment where the movie really connected for me right there.
mhm.
Because right there, I mean, like we're this is a movie we're going to talk about like tangents a lot because I feel like this is a very tangentable movie. But Barbara Jean just like right there, like where she just got out of the hospital and then she does a great performance in the beginning. That song is amazing,
Yeah,
and she's just a great little performer. And then she keeps on just rambling about on and on and on. I was like, this is freaking hilarious. It seemed like a train wreck happened in person because like we've definitely seen like on the live stage before. You can imagine if this was today, that'd be a social media moment like Barbara Jean drunk out of her mind or something like
yeah,
that.
because and she, was in a burn facility. Like that's kind of the opening of the movie, and like the entire town, or at least in our stable of characters, are all um here, and they just like the town kind of chases everything. She gets off the plane and then she collapses and she's immediately brought to the hospital, which kind of links everything. And I kind of like how the Barbara Jean situation and the Hal Philip Walker campaign are kind of like the interconnecting twines of everything else going on in there. Like we have the folk trio Bill, Mary, and Tom there, who are kind of background characters, but the character Tom, he's a ladies' man, if you will. And for
Yeah.
whatever reason, he is, the first night we see him wake up with the lady from the BBC. The second night he's with Mary, who is married to Bill, the other guy in the trio, but he's been relentlessly going after Lily Tomlin's character, who is married to Delbert Reese, who's the guy involved with the Hal Philip Walker campaign. He's the lawyer who's partnered with that campaign trying to get everything together. And it's kind of interesting how it all encircles like that there.
I mean, they gave like great payoffs to moments like that of like the whole Tom character, where I think like the climax of his like character arc in this movie is when he sings that song. That's like that's why I'm easy.
That's
and
why
you see throughout the whole entire crowd, every woman in that crowd thinks the song's about him, about them rather.
Yeah,
you see like Lily Tomlin, you see Mary, you see Shelley Duvall be like, "Oh, he's talking about me."
So that's the climax of it, and then the epilogue is he brings back Linnea, Lily Tomlin's character.
Yeah.
And he's like, can't you just stay for another hour? Can't you just stay? And she's like, no, I gotta go. I gotta get back. And
it was great
then
that she had a little agency, and he's like goes crazy over it. He's like, come on.
He was crazy about her before. He called her multiple times, but while she's getting back dressed up, he's on the phone with some girl from New York trying to get her to come down to see him. And it's like, oh, this is the other side of fame. Well, this is the other side of fame. Like you think in your brain, like, oh, being that guy that can get every woman he wants is good. But who is that guy? What is he? And he's a lonely soul. He's somebody that needs to continually chase companionship. He's somebody that is not comfortable with who he is. Like we see him with the driver, Norman, played by David Arkin, who's the chauffeur, and he's like asking for like hard drugs, and the guy's like, I can get you grass. He's like, grass isn't gonna do it for me. Like, this is not. It kind of shows that like the rock star of the time is not somebody that you should envy or somebody you want to be.
And at the end of the day, this character is kind of creepy. I mean, the way he treats Lily Tomlin was played for humor of like how Ned Beatty keeps on hearing their phone conversations like, oh, who is that? He's like,
yeah,
oh, don't worry about that. I just love just like a little moment of him just being like, listening on the phone, being like, what the fuck is my wife going on about?
Yeah.
I just think the guy essentially seems like a creep loser, and Lily Tomlin at first is just like, stay away from me, stop calling me. And then she just falls for a rock star charm, and then it turns out that he's just basically a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's not a good person, Keith Carradine's character, and he's like, it seems like he's trying to get away from the folk trio that made him famous, there with that single that he's made, but it's all these through lines because it's again like as we've said, like this is a character based movie that's observant of themes, and it's a kind of movie that people love to say like you couldn't make this movie anymore, but like what modern audience could actually sit through this movie nowadays?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, we hear people talk.
Even think back to us at age 20. Do you think both of us could have sat through this movie?
Maybe to an extent, because I feel like the reason why this movie didn't like the length didn't like feel punishing at all was just because the musical performances interspersed throughout it just made it like a little entertaining break or something like that throughout the whole entire character arc. We just had a movie Oppenheimer last year that grossed like almost $1 billion. And
it grossed over $1 billion. I wasn't talking about the length. I was talking like at least Oppenheimer has a plot to it. This doesn't have. This barely has a plot hanging on.
Well, you're also talking to someone who used to watch Dazed and Confused every single weekend for like a year in senior year of high school, and was obsessed with Richard Linklater's Slacker and stuff like that. So, I keep on bringing Linklater back up and again because it's just really what I thought about
you feel
this.
the influence from this movie
Yeah,
onto something like Dazed and Confused. You can
exactly.
definitely feel that because this is a bit of a hangout movie. Not in the
Yeah, that's
sense that maybe not in the sense that it's like defined as like a hangout movie is typically like, oh, it's super bad. Oh, it's like, it's like it's like your high school buddies that you're hanging out with. But
you're
this
at a
is what
party.
this
Yeah.
yeah, but this is what this is. It's a hangout movie in the town of Nashville. This is what's going on.
Yeah, and there's
This
just so many great little specials where I love the one part where Gould just shows up
yeah.
and just everyone's talking like, oh, you're the actor Elliot Gould. Like I didn't know. And apparently, what happened is pretty much just like that movie where Elliot Gould was in Nashville and Robert Altman was like, hey, you want to be in this movie for like a day? He's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Well,
sure, I'll
he
stop
had
by.
when he did the MASH movie, Elliot Gould was in that. And like if you don't know who Elliot Gould is, you probably know him as Ross and Rachel's father on Friends.
Oh yeah,
But in the 1970s, he was a massive movie star. And he had partnered with Robert Altman. That's how he was able to get there. But it shows you, the Elliot Gould cameo shows you like when he arrives at a party, how people go from treating him when they first know him. Like you said, Ned Beatty's character, he's like, oh, is Harvin in? Can I see him now? And Ned Beatty's character, it's like, oh, let me go see. I know they're talking back there. And then like they come in, oh, look at him. That's just a movie star. Like they're just talking about him. And like he's
yeah,
like, oh, I'm so sorry. If I knew who you were. And it's just interesting. It's again these little character changes. How do they actually interact with famous people like once they know
yeah.
they're famous? It's just a little way of showing that like those
Just the
kind
way
of
that Ned Beatty immediately wants to go over. It's like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea who you were. Right? Like,
yeah, yeah. And it's I again, this movie is
there.
about fame, and every scene explores that example.
So real quick, there is, I think the main part about fame is obviously the end of this movie. Ronnie Blakely, who Timmy, I'm going to ask you what other movies Ronnie Blakely been in. We've covered it on the pod before, without looking it up.
um
One guess.
um
It's one of my favorite
uh
movies. All right, all
The
right.
Perks of Being a Wallflower.
No, I hate that movie. Fuck that
I
movie.
know, I
No,
know.
she is the mom in Nightmare on Elm Street of the main character.
Oh,
Yeah, and in
interesting.
that movie she plays like a drunk too. So which I wouldn't even know if her character in this would be considered a drunk, but kind of just out of it right here. So it's just a great little through line. She definitely had her little lane that she stayed in back in the 70s and 80s. But a lot of people said the end of this movie, and like 5 or 6 years after, was the John Lennon shooting. And
Yeah.
people would go up to Robert Altman and be like, do you feel responsible for the Lennon shooting? Which I think is a fucking stupid question to ask. Like, no.
And that's anybody who that's like asking
Yeah.
Jodie Foster if she feels responsible for Hinckley trying to shoot Reagan. Like it's like, come on, man. Like she had
No.
nothing to do with it.
Yeah. And Robert Altman basically was just like, no, like, are you kidding me? Like, how would I be responsible for that? It's not my fault. But it's just the thing of like the cult of personality where he originally thought of like making the killer him shoot like a politician or something like that and be like, no, I think that when people want to shoot like a celebrity, it's just trying to be infamous in their own way. And that's what the Scott Glenn character was trying to be. He was just the directionless man that just wants some infamy at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's that that underlying theme of fame, and he's kind of the most innocuous character like that
Mhm.
we see. Like we see him watching Barbara Jean the day before she's melting down, and just kind of like looking at him kind of creepily. But
Mhm.
meanwhile, right next to him is this private who is, he just got back from Vietnam, and he's like, my mom was obsessed with Barbara Jean growing up, and she was just like, you have to do this with your life. You have to go see her, you have to follow her around and just like learn her. So if you think about like the obsession with it, like with the Kenny character, we get none of that hint of that. But then with the private, you're like, this guy's an obsessed fan. Like the first time we
Mhm.
see him is after everybody leaves her in the hospital. He sneaks in there while she's asleep and just sits there and watches her. Then when a nurse comes in, he just like bolts out of the room. It's this very different kind of relationship of obsession with fans. And with the Kenny character, it's kind of left unsaid what's going on with him, but only the mom being like, I'm really, really concerned about you. And it's almost played off a bit as like a joke or just your mom being kind of like annoying you, like,
Neurotic, yeah.
yeah, neurotic. She's like talking about some parasite that's down in the south that can get into you if you're asleep or whatever. And he just like hangs up the phone and goes like, oh, I love you too, mom, just so L.A. Joan hears it. And like that's like your one clue of like this guy's a weirdo. This guy is not not all there
Mm.
coherently. Um, but I think the most comical character is probably Opal, the BBC journalist.
Yeah, where she's like, apparently she is Charlie Chaplin's daughter, which was insane. Which is another weird aspect of fame, right there. To connect this movie with the theme and stuff like that. But she's talking through her ass about being the BBC. She clearly isn't a BBC reporter. I mean, her last name is Chaplin.
Well, that's the actress's name, but the character's name is
Well, yeah,
Opal.
yeah.
But she is kind of, I would say she's like your surrogate. She's your character that kind of like helps you get to know everybody else because she can, in her presentation, she's like, oh, I wish my cameraman was here, but she was just kind of walking around with like a janky recorder. Like she's not who she says she was. And
Yeah,
another person
but
that was very celebrity obsessed. And there's a moment where they're at the club. It's during the I'm Easy scene with Bill,
mm.
Mary, and Tom, and she's sitting there, and Norman, the chauffeur, is sitting there, and he's like, oh, ma'am, like I know all the little ins and outs of this town. I'd be happy to. And she's like, listen, I make it a point to not interact with the servants. Like that's the line, quote for quote. And it's like, oh, like because everything up to that point, you've been like, oh, she's like kind of annoying, but not a bad person, like a little
Yeah.
too in the face of these people. But then after that, it was like, oh, she's just not a good person. Like you kind of like learn these things that she's just here to chase the fame, and it's just
Mhm.
this interesting through line of people who are
We have
there to chase the fame.
we have a lot of star fuckers in this movie, to put it a
To put it
little more
bluntly,
bluntly. Yeah.
yeah, that's a blunt way of putting it. So then let me ask you, in terms of songs, what's a song that like really stood out to you?
Um, I, I mean, other than "I'm Easy," I think that was also the most famous song from this. That which is just a great little South rock like kind of song. I love the first song that Ryan Blakely says right before she has her breakdown. I think it's called "Dues," where she's talking
Yeah,
about like, oh, "I'm down, down, down." And it's immediately like I was like, "Oh, this is like incredible." I didn't expect this out of this movie. Just this amazing song right here, and just the way that how she goes up the rails immediately after is just hilarious. But I thought the immediate thing is that you could see why everyone in this town is just obsessed with Barbara Jean. She's like essentially the crown jewel of Nashville, and
yeah.
for all these characters.
Yeah, and it's the one like revolving plot. It's almost like I don't know a modern comparison, but it's like in this film's world, she is Taylor Swift. Like she lands home and there's just news reporters there and a marching band
Mhm.
and the rifle team and all this stuff. And yeah, like she's a very like just an important character, like not as famous as Taylor Swift is now, but just in terms of the world that this movie encapsulates, this
Yeah,
America.
within the town itself. I mean, you have other characters like Karen Black, who later on became a star in Rob Zombie movies, oddly enough. She's like plays like the rival character. She's sings that
Connie
song
White.
Memphis. Yeah, the Memphis song is really great too, but you just tell that she's like just not on the same level as Barbara Jean, and kind of just like it discouraged her a little bit.
The lesser of the two.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of, we have John Triplett, who's the agent for Hal Philip Walker campaign. I really like that we never actually got to see Hal Philip Walker. Like he's just this
Yeah,
ominous voice that goes
you
through the
just hear his voice.
town.
That's it.
You don't ever see him. And it all just culminates at Centennial Park, which I can walk to in 5 minutes. I've walked by there. It looks a little different. I mean, for me, like living there is definitely like living here now and knowing the city. I was trying
How
to,
big of a aspect was that when you were like, I should move to Nashville? You're like,
I
I
mean,
love the movie.
it was just the biggest park, and I used to live by Central Park, so that was kind of my decision-making
Yeah.
process there. When you're blindly picking an apartment, it's like, oh, I'd like to go in a place where I can go for a walk. Um, but yeah, I feel like we've like scratched the surface on this one, and I feel like this is another conversation that we could do like a whole other podcast on because there just is a
Mm.
lot of meat to this. I feel like we've discussed this movie pretty thoroughly, but we've also left out and omitted a lot about this movie. I don't know how you feel about that
I
and
mean,
like the way we've talked
we've barely
about.
even we barely even talked about like some of the other characters within this. I mean, like what the main singer guy, the guy who sings like
Yeah,
what's his I forget his name off the top of my head.
Harvin Hamlin,
Yeah, we barely talked about Harmon Hamlin,
played
where I
by
think he's just a
played by Henry Gibson. He's in Blues Brothers. He's the main Nazi in Blues Brothers, and he is the priest in Wedding Crashers.
well, Blues Brothers movie we'll have to add to our list because I have not seen it all the
Oh,
way through. At least maybe not in years.
love Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Definitely down
So
for a Blues Brothers watch.
yeah.
Yeah, Harvin is he's a politically ambitious man. Like he's very political in his approaches there. And he was like, "Oh, we would never support a political party at the party at his house." And that's when John Triplett is like, "Well, we kind of had you in mind for the governor of Tennessee. We think he'd be a great governor of Tennessee." And he's like, "Huh." And that's where he gets in, and he's a very ambitious man. He has the relationship with his son Bud, who was he didn't want. He's a much more softer spoken. He graduated from like Harvard Law School, and he sits there and tells Opal like, "Hey, like I would have loved to have been a singer, but my dad wouldn't let me." And it just kind of shows you that somebody who is that famous doesn't want the same thing for their son. It's just like it's another rope around, and it's like this movie is basically a lot of like it's like the It's Always Sunny conspiracy theory board Charlie
Yeah.
episode where it's like pointing. It's like all these
Yeah.
little webs that interconnect into fame and like why somebody is famous, why someone isn't famous, why they want to be famous, and how all these people just kind of like pair together and click together, and it all culminates at that Hal Philip Walker uh, rally in Centennial Park. Um, but I think then there's like minor characters like Tommy Brown just to kind of show just to kind of touch on like race in the South in America at this time, right? It's just like he doesn't have a ton of screen time, but he's just there to kind of just fill out this world a little bit more. Um, and I think that makes for a very it just makes this world feel so lived in. It's this movie I feel like is the epitome of 1970s movie.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, like I said earlier, I feel like this is a movie I could rewatch for a ton and get more things out of it because it's just like
it's
my
definitely
favorite
that you pick up
Yeah.
something new every time you watch it.
And it's like we were talking about this earlier. This definitely has like some hangout vibes where like I could imagine just rewatching this and be like, oh, I get to see Harvin Hamilton again. I get to see Ned Beatty's character again. I get to see Barbara Jean again. Oh, I can't wait to watch this again. So it was just a real shock in that way where I going in blind, I did not expect this. I thought it was gonna be maybe a little more plot driven, but instead it's just more character driven in a way that's really entertaining.
Yeah, and it's one of these movies that like I think deserves more recognition for what it is. I think it's an accomplishment to make a movie
It's
like a hangout movie like this. Like in terms of like hangout movies we've discussed, and we keep bringing up Dazed and Confused, but Dazed and Confused is a hangout movie because it's like the last day of high school. Like that's just a time you hung out. Like this
Yeah.
is a hangout movie that investigates the city of Nashville and its music industry. And it's just
yeah, over the course of like 5 days, whereas Days
it's
Confused is just like one day.
yeah, it's
Um,
atypical in that manner.
yeah, it's interesting that the cultural conversation in this movie has kind of been like non-existent in the last few years. I mean, we have our top of the top 70s movies like Jaws, Godfather, Alien that we're still discussing to this day here. Whereas this movie, I feel like, well, obviously, like it's critical reception. I don't feel like most people our age even know what this movie is, which is a little disappointing in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I said that. I've asked everybody who lives in this town, "Have you seen this movie?" And they're like, "Dude, I've heard of the show.
Yeah.
The show called Nashville. I've never heard of this." But this film is like it's on the AFI's top 100 list of American films. It was selected in 1992, which I believe was the first year it was selected for preservation by the United States National Film Registry and the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And I kind of think it bundles all three of those together in an interesting way.
Yeah, and this movie was like really nominated for like a ton of stuff, like Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting
It
Actress.
had like 7 or 8 Academy Award
It
nominations.
won Best Original Song. I'm gonna look up. This is what 1974 when this came out.
1975 when it came out, so 76 Oscars.
So the 76 Oscars. This is just like how insane the 70s were. So I'm just gonna list these off. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Barry Lyndon, Dog Day Afternoon, Jaws, and Nashville. And
That's
I
that's a ridiculous
I
that's
feel like those,
that's a
yeah,
ridiculous Oscars.
that may be one of the best picture races we've ever had. And that's what, out of how many movies? That's like 5 movies right there. I feel like 4 of those movies are still in the cultural conversation today. Especially,
And Nashville should be in the
and
conversation.
Nashville should be too. And you can't even argue the fact that Nashville lost, because look at the other movies it's going up against.
Yeah.
One Flew to, so, but still, just an insane run right there. And maybe this movie should still be in rotation.
I think it's I think it's a movie that would play better in theaters. Like it's one of those that I could see like IFC or something. Like I could see next year it kind of coming back into the conversation more and more once like its 50th anniversary will be next year. Like some movie theaters play it and people write some articles about it and people go, "Oh, what is this movie? Like, and how have I never heard about it?" And I think it's interesting because like we in the year 2024 just had faced another assassination attempt. Just a couple of weeks ago. And this movie, that's the climax of this movie. And then it leaves with this message of like who the future is, right? Like when she's singing, and you can't say that I'll be free, but it don't worry me, right?
Yeah.
Like when she sings that, Albuquerque sings that, like it's not really focused on her. It's focused on like the children in the crowd. And then it just pans out in Centennial Park as the American flag gets larger and larger in the background. And and it ends like that. It's a very 70s ending.
Well, yeah, it's very comedic though too, where like we go from like a character. I mean, I like that they don't like really reveal if Ronnie Blakely, Barbara Jean like survived that shot or not. I think she died personally.
Yeah. She's
but
pretty weak. She was pretty weak going on to that stage.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, but going from that to this really violent moment to this one character having a triumphant moment to be like, I actually am a great singer. Apparently, the actor who played again, I'm terrible with the names for this. The actor who played Winifred was like a great Broadway actress, but wasn't really known in film for singing. So that's why they just waited until the end of the movie to reveal, hey, this person who has these like great aspirational hopes of being a singer actually has the talent and isn't like Sulene, who couldn't sing for the fucking save her life.
Yeah.
And it just it Don't Worry Me is, I think, also one of my favorite songs on this too.
Yeah.
And just
and
amazing way to end your movie.
They sprinkle it in through like that theme throughout the thing. It kind of just shows, I think it shows the resilience of a country like the United States and all that it does end up going through. But yeah, I think, Tommy, now it's time to figure out who is the star of the show, because I think we are going to have different answers.
I am a star. I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star. I am a big, bright, shining star.
All right, Tommy, who is the star of the show? Who do you think gave the best performance in a film like Nashville?
So the obvious answer is Jeff Goldblum as the fucking weirdo.
The silent guy on the tricycle.
I'm joking. It's not obviously my answer. I just need to bring him up at some point in this podcast. It's hilarious.
Well, he doesn't say anything. He's the silent bike rider in this, man.
It's hilarious that that's just like all they use Jeff Goldblum for. I mean, like, granted, this is before he like really broke out at all.
This is his second movie ever.
Yeah, and it's the first movie to really utilize like, hey, this guy's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, it definitely understood that essence of him. I mean, he was 24 when he was like in this. Like, he was born in 1952. Like he's 24, 23, 24 when this came out. Like he's very, very young in this.
Yeah. And my actual like real interest like answer, I think my favorite performance was Sulene Gay, Gwen Wells. I think she was nominated for like a BAFTA for this role, the one who's like the bad singer.
Gwen Wells,
I just think like the heartbreaking you see in her eyes when she reveals that like this crowd hates me and I'm gonna have to show my fucking boobs in order to get them to like anything about me, and how depressed she looks while she's doing this.
And like the pressure she felt.
Yeah. And you just tell she's like, I just hate my life right now. I can't believe I'm doing it. I thought it was just a great little thing. And then the end of her character arc is like, I'm still gonna make it. And it's just like, oh no.
And then she's on the stage. She's on the stage at the end when Albuquerque's singing "It Won't Worry Me," because she was given the promise, but she wasn't the one that was handed the microphone. Albuquerque was handed the microphone by my selection. which
Yeah.
is Henry Gibson as Haven Hamilton.
Yeah.
I really love this performance. I thought, I think it's a very interesting character that he plays. He's, in a way, also the audience's he's kind of guiding the audience through Nashville as he's guiding these other characters through it. And he's this very, you don't really know who he is,
Mhm.
And I thought he just had like a really terrific performance. You see little underlying truths, like right at the beginning when he sings 200 years, and the piano player who we see pop up a couple times there, Frog, is not getting it right, and he goes off on him, and you just see that he's a bit shrewd. Like there was some, Opal tries to pop into the recording studio, and he's just rude, and like this underlying current that he's able to kind of show. And then, in the moment when Barbara Jean gets shot and he's standing right next to her,
Yeah.
he's thinking about Nashville itself. And he says, "This isn't Dallas, damn it. It's Nashville. This doesn't happen here. The show must go on," and just hands the microphone on. And that's kind of like what that is in essence who his character is. No matter what happens, the show must go on because Nashville must succeed. Because, in the background of this character that I'm assuming he was very prominent in the rise of the city itself, and becoming this country music staple. And I just really love that performance. But there's a ton of great performance. You could go down the list. Lily Tomlin's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the more difficult ones we've had because, like you said earlier, there's not a central character in this overall. So I just like so many people stand out, and so many people have their own great little moments to shine in this movie. So whereas sometimes we cover a movie where it's just like, yeah, obviously the star of Total Recall is Arnold Schwarzenegger, whereas this, it's like we could debate this for a while, if we
Yeah.
wanted to.
No, I agree. I agree. And now we see if this would work as a Muppet adaptation.
Are you ready, comedy partner? Waka waka.
Tommy,
All right.
could you see Nashville work as a Muppet adaptation? Because there's an argument to be made.
I can see the musical performances. I mean, obviously, Haven Hamilton would be Kermit, right there. I mean, that doesn't make sense. Barbara Jean,
Piggy.
would that be Piggy? Yeah, I guess that'd be Piggy.
There's not that many
oddly enough,
There's not that many female Muppets, bro.
for some reason, this movie is listed on the Muppet Wikipedia page because in one scene, Cookie Monster is on the TV in Tom's room. Apparently, fun fact.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
Yeah,
I remember seeing he had like the electric company up on the TV there. I think this would be a little bit tough for the Muppets to tackle. Like, there's the musical side of things, obviously, but
You'd have to kid it down a little bit.
yeah,
a lot of it.
yeah, and I think it would just take away from like the adult themes of this movie. So Tommy, review time. Give me your score out of 5.
This was a very fun first watch. The musical performances are incredible. I mean, the soundtrack's been stuck in my head for days after I've seen it. And just a great hangout vibe. I can definitely see myself revisiting this movie. I didn't really feel length on it, and I'm gonna go 4.5 out of 5. Great first watch. Definitely recommend it. You'll have a fun time, especially if you like this type of music. This is like old school country in a way that's awesome. So.
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack. I think one of the things we haven't mentioned is Robert Altman's direction and the way he does his sound mixing. If you're watching this movie at home, I highly recommend sound subtitles because the way he blends it is that there's all these overlapping audio conversations, so it can be a little bit tricky, but I like that style. I could see that playing much better in a movie theater, which is what this movie was designed for, not for your viewing pleasure on your like 42-inch TV at home. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's a great examination of fame in a city in the United States that has now become much bigger than what it once was. Just a small little town that produced country music, and that's kind of what it was known for, and has grown into this big metropolitan area. And this town still is dominated by people moving down here trying to become famous. Like, it's still a part of this city's identity. It still lives on today. And just seeing it in that environment at that time, I think it really translates through. I think the way that he balances 24 different characters, like not every character is super important, but they're all part of there to make the world feel lived in. And that there's just this light through line, but still giving us time with all of these characters to kind of get to know them, who they are, what their goals, dreams, ambitions are, what their struggles are. Like we feel that. And I think it's a really ambitious movie. I think it lands on both feet successfully. I think it's beautifully directed, wonderfully performed, and the soundtrack definitely makes this very entertaining, this kind of movie. So for me, 5 out of 5, epitome of a 1970s movie. Um, and yeah, that is my score there. Tommy, any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. You can follow us on social media. That's at Seen It Pod. That's on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, occasional thread. And leave us a 5-star review. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast helps us grow the show and get the word out. And next week, we're covering Jim Carrey's The Mask. It's celebrating its 30th anniversary next week. So we're going to cover a Jim Carrey classic that I have somehow never seen. So get ready for that.
All right. All right. The Mask is coming up, and we'll have a fun August schedule for you. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you next week.